She probably snuck in through the kitchen. My brother laughed to his clients. Can't afford the front door. The table erupted in polite chuckles. 3 men in expensive suits. 2 women dripping in jewelry. All of them looking at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of their designer shoes. I smiled and continued toward my usual table in the corner. The maitre d' appeared at my elbow, his face a careful mask of professionalism. "Madam, your brother doesn't know you own the restaurant?" The wine glasses stopped clinking. I placed my hand gently on his arm. "Not yet, Henri. Let's give it a moment." Growing up in the Kessler household meant understanding your place in the hierarchy early. And my place was somewhere between forgotten and inconvenient. My brother Marcus was born 3 years before me, and from the moment I entered the world, I was playing catch-up to someone who'd already won the race. He was the firstborn son, the carrier of the family name, the golden child who could do no wrong. I was Morgan. The afterthought. Age 8, the piano recital. The first memory that really crystallized my place in the family happened when I was 8 years old. I'd been taking piano lessons for 2 years, practicing every day until my fingers ached. My teacher, Mrs. Bellingham, said I had genuine talent. She'd entered me in the county youth competition. I won first place. I remember running into the house, trophy clutched to my chest, breathless with excitement. Mom was in the kitchen on the phone with Aunt Patricia. Mom, I won. First place. She held up one finger, not even looking at me. Patty, you won't believe this. Marcus scored the winning goal in his soccer game. The coach said he's never seen such natural athletic ability in a 10-year-old. I stood there for 3 full minutes, trophy getting heavy in my arms, waiting. She never asked about the recital. The trophy ended up in my closet. Marcus's soccer trophies lined the mantel in the living room. Age 14, the college fund conversation. When I was 14, I overheard a conversation that would shape the next 2 decades of my life. I was supposed to be at volleyball practice, but I'd twisted my ankle and come home early. I heard my parents in Dad's study, door slightly ajar. Marcus will need at least $200,000 for Stanford, Dad was saying. It's an investment in his future. He's going to be somebody. What about Morgan? Mom asked, though her tone suggested it was more obligation than actual concern. Dad laughed. Not cruelly, just dismissively. Like the question was absurd. Morgan will figure something out. Community college, maybe. She doesn't have Marcus's ambition. Some people are just ordinary. I stood frozen in the hallway, ankle throbbing, chest throbbing worse. Ordinary. That word became my fuel. Every late night studying, every scholarship application, every business plan I drafted in college while my roommates partied. I heard that word. Ordinary. And I was determined to prove it wrong. Age 22, the graduation dinner. Marcus graduated from Stanford Business School when I was finishing my degree at State. My parents threw him a massive party. Rented out a venue. Invited 200 guests. Had it catered by one of the best restaurants in the city. I graduated summa cum laude 2 weeks later. With a double major in finance and hospitality management. Full scholarship the entire way because I'd gotten exactly $0 from that college fund. My celebration? Dinner at Applebee's with 3 friends. Mom couldn't make it. She was helping Marcus apartment hunt in Manhattan for his new investment banking job. Dad stopped by for 20 minutes, checked his watch twice and said, "Hospitality management? So you want to be a hotel maid?" I didn't correct him. I didn't explain that I'd already secured a position with a commercial real estate development firm. I didn't mention that my senior thesis on urban restaurant properties had caught the attention of 3 different investors. I just smiled and said, something like that. The next decade. What my family didn't know, what I deliberately kept from them, was that I had a plan. A very specific, very detailed plan. I started at the bottom of Whitmore Development Group. Property analyst. 60-hour weeks. Learning everything about commercial real estate, restaurant operations and hospitality investment. By 25, I was a project manager. By 27, I'd identified a gap in the market. Mid-tier cities with emerging food scenes desperately needed high-end restaurant spaces with proper infrastructure. I took every bonus, every commission, every penny I'd saved and I invested it. I found partners who believed in my vision. Small investors at first, then larger ones as my track record grew. By 29, I'd acquired my first building. A former warehouse in a gentrifying neighborhood that I converted into a boutique food hall. It was valued at $2.3 million within 18 months of opening. By 31 I had 5 properties. By 33 I had 12. Today at 34 years old I own Kessler Holdings, though nobody in my family knows the name. We specialize in high-end restaurant real estate and hospitality venues. Our portfolio is valued at $340 million. I personally own 81% of the company. My annual income last year was $15 million. And one of my crown jewels? Lumiere. The restaurant where my brother Marcus was currently entertaining clients. I'd purchased the building 3 years ago for $8.5 million. The restaurant itself, which I owned outright, not just the property, had become one of the city's most prestigious dining establishments. 3-month waiting list. $400 average check. 94-point rating from every major food publication. My family had no idea. I'd kept it that way deliberately. Partly because I wanted my success to be mine, untainted by their sudden interest once they realized I wasn't ordinary. Partly because there was a small, petty part of me that wanted to see how they'd treat me when they thought I had nothing. The answer? Exactly as they always had. Tonight was about to change everything. I hadn't planned to be at Lumiere tonight. I was supposed to be in Chicago, closing on a new property acquisition. A $12 million restaurant space that would become our flagship Midwest location. But the deal had closed 3 days early. And when my assistant mentioned that Marcus had made a reservation at Lumiere for tonight, using my name as a reference no less, claiming we were close, something in me wanted to see exactly what he'd say. So I'd flown back. Changed into a simple but elegant black dress. Nothing flashy. No jewelry except my mother's old watch. The one piece she'd given me, back before Marcus became the center of the universe. I'd arrived 30 minutes after Marcus and his party, deliberately. Walked in through the front door like any other guest. The hostess recognized me immediately, of course. Sophia had been with Lumiere since opening night. Miss Kessler. We weren't expecting you. Your usual table. Please. And Sophia? I'd like to remain unannounced for now. She understood immediately. Staff at my properties knew my preference for anonymity. It's how I'd gotten honest feedback about operations for years. I was seated at my corner table, partially obscured by a beautiful arrangement of orchids, when I heard Marcus's voice carry across the dining room. This place is impossible to get into, you know. 3-month wait. But I know the owner. He was speaking loudly enough for neighboring tables to hear. Classic Marcus. Family connections. His clients looked suitably impressed. I opened my menu, though I knew it by heart. Executive Chef Thomas and I had spent 6 months perfecting it. That's when Marcus noticed me. I watched recognition flicker across his face. Then confusion. Then that familiar smirk that had been directed at me since childhood. "Excuse me for a moment," he said to his table and walked over. "Morgan." He looked at my table setting, my dress, his expression halfway between amused and incredulous. "What are you doing here?" "Having dinner." "Here? At Lumiere?" He laughed, not bothering to keep his voice down. "Do you know what the average check is at this place? $400 per person approximately." "Exactly. This restaurant is above your level, Morgan. How did you even get a reservation? Actually, don't tell me, did you use my name?" I took a sip of water. "I have my own name, Marcus." He leaned closer, voice dropping to what he probably thought was a concerned whisper but was still perfectly audible. "Look, I'm with important clients. This is a $2 million deal I'm closing tonight. I can't have you here looking." He gestured vaguely at me. "Like you don't belong. I'm just having dinner. The maitre d' obviously made a mistake letting you in. Let me handle this." He straightened up and snapped his fingers. Actually snapped his fingers at Henri, who had been the maitre d' at Lumiere since day one and was worth approximately 100 of my brother. Henri approached, face professionally neutral. "Sir, there's been some kind of mistake. My sister somehow got a table, but this restaurant isn't really her scene. She should probably be redirected somewhere more appropriate. There's a diner 2 blocks over." Henry's expression flickered just briefly. "I'll make it worth your while," Marcus added, pulling out his wallet. $100 to handle this quietly?" I said nothing. Just watched. Henri turned to look at me, question in his eyes. I gave an almost imperceptible nod. Sir, Henri said, turning back to Marcus, I believe there may be some confusion about the situation. No confusion. He's my sister. I know her financial situation. Trust me, she can't afford to be here. This was the moment. I could feel it building like pressure before a storm. Henri straightened to his full height. Madam, your brother doesn't know you own the restaurant? The wine glasses stopped clinking. The words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus blinked. Once. Twice. I'm sorry, what? Miss Kessler, Henri continued, and I saw the exact moment my brother registered the name, is the owner of Lumiere. She has been since we opened 3 years ago. That's... Marcus shook his head. That's not possible. This is a joke, right? Some kind of prank. I remained seated, calm, watching my brother's world rearrange itself in real time. I assure you, sir, it is not a joke. Henry's voice was ice. Miss Kessler owns not only the restaurant but the entire building. She is also my employer. Marcus's face went through an interesting series of colors. Red to white to a strange grayish hue I'd never seen on him before. Morgan. He turned to me, voice cracking slightly. Is this true? I took another sip of water. Behind us, I heard the murmur starting at Marcus's table. His clients were definitely watching now. Miss Kessler? Henri asked quietly. Shall I explain further? Perhaps you could show my brother to my office after dessert, I said. I believe we have some things to discuss. Of course, madam. Henri paused. And regarding his reservation tonight, should I inform Chef Thomas? Who made the reservation? Your brother, madam. He claimed you were siblings and that you would want him to have our best table. He also mentioned several times that you were close. I let that sit for a moment. Marcus had used my connection. A connection he didn't even know existed, to impress clients. Had probably been doing it for months, given the reservation backlog. I see. Please let Chef Thomas know I'd like to meet with him briefly. Henri nodded and retreated. Marcus was still standing at my table, seemingly frozen. His clients were openly staring now. You should return to your table, I said quietly. Your clients are waiting. Morgan, I don't understand. How is this possible? You work at some small company. You can barely afford your apartment. You've never asked what I do, Marcus. Not once in 15 years. But, $400 average check. 3-month wait list. This place is worth. The restaurant is valued at $8.5 million. The building with the other commercial spaces is worth $12 million. I kept my voice low, calm. I purchased it 3 years ago. His jaw actually dropped. I'd heard that phrase before but never seen it happen in real life. And this is just one property, I continued. I own 12 buildings in total. My company, Kessler Holdings, has a portfolio valued at $340 million. The color drained from his face. Complete, total drain, like watching water flow out of a sink. That's not, you're making this up. Henri, I called softly. The maitre d' reappeared instantly. Could you please bring my brother a copy of tonight's receipts? The ones that show where the payments deposit. Of course, madam. While we waited, I watched Marcus struggle. His hands were shaking slightly. His expensive suit, probably a $3,000 custom job, knowing Marcus, suddenly looked cheap. Not because of the suit itself but because of the way he was wearing it. Deflated. Here you are, sir. Henri returned with a tablet showing the night's transactions. At the bottom, clear as day, deposits routing to Kessler Holdings LLC. Marcus stared at the screen. His hand came up to his mouth. I need to. He gestured vaguely toward his table. My clients. Of course. He walked back to his table like a man in a dream. I watched him sit down heavily. Watched him try to compose his face into something professional. Watched him fail. 10 minutes later, Chef Thomas appeared at my table. Miss Kessler. Henri mentioned you wanted to see me? Thomas. How are reservations looking for next month? Fully booked as usual. Though. He glanced toward Marcus's table. We did accommodate a last-minute large party request tonight. A Mr. Kessler claimed family connection. By brother. Thomas's eyes widened slightly. I see. He's been using the family name to secure reservations? According to Sophia, this is his fourth time in 2 months. Always with clients. Always claiming close relationship with the owner. I nodded slowly. What's his usual bill? Tonight will be approximately $2,800 with the wine selections he's made. Similar on previous visits. And he's tipped well? Thomas hesitated. He's tipped adequately. Which meant barely. Classic Marcus. Thank you, Thomas. The carbonara tonight was exceptional, by the way. Thank you, Miss Kessler. He paused. Should we adjust anything for his party? No. Let them finish their meal in peace. But Thomas? After tonight, his name comes off the reservation priority list. Understood. As Thomas left, I saw Marcus's phone buzz on his table. Saw him look at it, frown, then look at me with growing horror. Because I just texted him. From the phone he didn't know I had. The building your investment firm is headquartered in? That's mine too. We should talk about your lease terms. His fork dropped onto his plate with a clatter that echoed across the dining room. The full revelation came exactly as dessert was being served to Marcus's table. I hadn't planned it this way, but timing has always been my strength. In real estate, in business, in life. You learn to wait for the perfect moment. The moment came in the form of my business partner, Daniel Chin, walking through Lumiere's front door. Daniel is the public face of Kessler Holdings for situations where I prefer anonymity. He handles the high-profile negotiations, the press interviews, the industry events. He's also brilliant, ruthless, and fiercely loyal. Tonight, he was arriving for our scheduled post-acquisition celebration dinner. We were supposed to be marking the Chicago deal closure. Morgan. He spotted me immediately, striding over with his characteristic energy. Congratulations on closing early. $12 million for the Michigan Avenue property. Chin from Singapore is still crying about being outbid. He said this loudly enough to carry. Daniel always did have a flair for the dramatic. At Marcus's table, heads turned. Daniel. I stood to greet him. Thank you for meeting me here. Of course. Your assistant said you wanted to review the quarterly numbers over dinner. He pulled out a leather portfolio. Total portfolio value is now at $347 million, by the way. The new acquisition pushed us over. I heard a sharp intake of breath from Marcus's direction. Oh. Daniel paused, following my gaze to my brother's table. Am I interrupting something? My brother is here. With clients. Daniel's expression shifted to understanding. He knew the family history. He was one of the few people who did. Shall I? Just be yourself, Daniel. He grinned. My pleasure. What happened next unfolded with the precision of a well-orchestrated symphony. Daniel walked to Marcus's table, all confidence and professional charm. Good evening. I'm Daniel Chin, managing partner at Kessler Holdings. I noticed you looking at my colleague. Marcus's clients straightened in their seats. The Kessler Holdings name I knew would be familiar to anyone in investment banking. We'd been featured in Forbes last month. Kessler Holdings? One of Marcus's clients, an older man with silver hair, looked between Daniel and me. The real estate development firm? You just acquired the Hartfield building in Chicago. Indeed. Miss Kessler closed that deal just yesterday. Daniel gestured toward me. She prefers a lower profile, but I can assure you she's the driving force behind our entire operation. The silver-haired man's eyes went wide. Miss Kessler. As in. He looked at Marcus. Your sister? The one you said works at some small company? Marcus's face went pale. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. The one who snuck in through the kitchen? One of the women at the table added, her voice cooling noticeably. She owns this restaurant, Henri added, appearing with perfect timing. And the building. And I believe the building where your offices are located, Mr. Kessler. We received confirmation this afternoon. Dead silence. Marcus's hand knocked over his wine glass. Deep red Bordeaux spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. There's been some mistake. His voice was barely a whisper. No mistake. Daniel was enjoying this, I could tell. Kessler Holdings acquired 414 Commerce Street 18 months ago. Your firm, Marcus Kessler Investment Partners, occupies floors 8 through 10. Your lease comes up for renewal in. He pretended to think. For months, isn't it? One of the women at the table, the one with diamond earrings, pushed back her chair. Marcus, you told us you had family connections to the owner here. You said you were close. We are family. You told me your sister couldn't afford a decent apartment. You said she was ordinary, the silver-haired man added. Those were your exact words. My sister is ordinary, but I'm the successful one in the family. Marcus's other client, who had been silent until now, stood up abruptly. I think we're done here. The deal, Marcus started, is off. The man straightened his tie. I don't do business with people who lie about their own family. If you'll diminish your sister like this, what would you do to a business partner? One by one, Marcus's clients stood and left. I watched my brother sit alone at that massive table, wine still spreading across the cloth, his phone buzzing with what I could only assume were damage control texts from his firm. He looked up at me. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in Marcus Kessler's eyes. Not the sharp, confident contempt I'd grown up with. Not the dismissive amusement he'd directed at me for decades. Just fear. Morgan. His voice cracked. I didn't know. I know you didn't. How long have you been building this? 15 years. Since Dad said I was too ordinary for the family college fund. His face went even paler. You heard that? I heard everything, Marcus. Every comparison. Every dismissal. Every time Mom forgot my achievements. Every time Dad invested in your ventures while telling me to figure something out. I remained calm, seated, my voice never rising above conversational level. I heard it all. And I built this anyway. I'm sorry. We didn't. I'm not interested in apologies, Marcus. I never was. Henri appeared at my elbow. Miss Kessler, the staff would like to know how to handle the bill for your brother's table. I considered for a moment. Charge it to his account as usual. He can afford it. For now, I didn't add. But we both heard it anyway. Immediate consequences. The next 72 hours unfolded like dominoes falling. First, the clients who had walked out on Marcus talked. In the world of investment banking, reputation is everything. By noon the next day, I'd received 4 separate phone calls from industry contacts asking if it was true that Marcus Kessler had been publicly exposed as a fraud and a liar at one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. I neither confirmed nor denied. I didn't have to. The story had already taken on a life of its own. Second, Marcus's firm began hemorrhaging clients. The first major withdrawal came at 9:47 a.m., a $15 million account that had been with him for 6 years. The client sent a brief email. We prefer to work with people of demonstrated integrity. By end of business that first day, Marcus had lost $47 million in managed assets. Third, his partners at the firm demanded answers. I know this because Marcus called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. On the 18th call, he left a voicemail that I saved. Morgan, please. You have to help me. My partners are asking questions. They're talking about buying me out. The building, you own the building. Please, we need to talk about the lease. We can't operate if you don't renew. Please call me back. I didn't call back. Escalating consequences. 1 week later, the situation had intensified. Marcus's investment firm, which had been valued at $35 million, was now facing a serious liquidity crisis. Major clients had withdrawn a total of $89 million in assets under management. His partners had initiated buyout proceedings. More importantly, I had received a very interesting phone call from our family attorney. Miss Kessler, this is Raymond Chin. No relation to your business partner. I handle your parents' estate planning. I know who you are, Mr. Chin. Then you may also know that your parents have substantial investments in your brother's firm. Approximately $2.3 million of their retirement portfolio. I didn't know that actually. But I'm not surprised. They're concerned. Very concerned. They've asked me to reach out to you on their behalf. I let the silence stretch. They would like to arrange a meeting. To discuss family matters. I'm sure they would. 3 days later, my parents showed up at Lumiere without a reservation. Henri called me immediately. Miss Kessler, there are 2 people at the front who claim to be your parents. They're insisting on seeing you. They say it's urgent. Are they making a scene? Not yet. But your mother appears to be crying. I was in my office above the restaurant reviewing acquisition proposals. I considered for a moment. Show them to the private dining room. I'll be down in 15 minutes. When I entered the private dining room, my mother jumped to her feet. She'd been crying. Henri was right. Her mascara was smeared, her usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. Morgan. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. My father remained seated. He looked older than I remembered. Grayer. Smaller somehow. Sit down, Morgan, he said. Still trying for authority. Still reaching for the power dynamic that had defined our relationship for 3 decades. I remained standing. We need to talk about Marcus, Mom said quickly. He's in trouble. His firm is collapsing. And our retirement. We invested everything with him, Morgan. We trusted him with everything. I'm aware. You have to help him. You're his sister. Family helps family. I let that statement sit in the room for a long moment. Family helps family, I repeated. That's interesting. I don't remember you helping me when I needed money for college. I don't remember anyone helping me when I was starting my company with nothing but determination and a maxed-out credit card. That was different. Was it? How? My father finally spoke up. You never asked for help. I did ask. I asked for years. You told me I was ordinary. You told me I'd figure something out. You invested $200,000 in Marcus's education and zero in mine. We thought Marcus had more potential. You were wrong. The words hung in the air. Simple. Undeniable. Morgan. My mother's voice was pleading now. If Marcus's firm fails, we lose everything. Our house. Our retirement. Everything. That sounds like a consequence of your investment decisions. Please. He's your brother. He's the man who told his clients I snuck in through the kitchen. Who said I couldn't afford the front door of my own restaurant. Who has spent 30 years telling everyone who would listen that I'm nothing. Kept my voice steady. Come. And you enabled every word of it. My father stood up suddenly, face reddening. Now listen here. No. The word stopped him cold. You listen. For the first time in my life, you're going to listen to me. I pulled out a chair and sat down. After a moment, my father sat too. Here is what's going to happen. Marcus's firm is going to collapse. That's inevitable now. His reputation is destroyed, his partners are abandoning him, and his clients are gone. I'm not going to save it. My mother started to interrupt. I'm not finished. She fell silent. The building his firm operates out of? I own it. His lease expires in 4 months. I will not be renewing it. Morgan. However. I paused. Let them hope just for a moment. I am not interested in destroying Marcus. I'm not interested in revenge. I am interested in consequences. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is a settlement offer. Marcus can pay out his partners and wind down his firm in an orderly fashion. I will purchase his remaining client accounts at fair market value, approximately $8 million. The money will go directly to you, to protect your retirement investment. My parents stared at the folder like it might bite them. In exchange, Marcus will issue a public statement acknowledging his behavior toward me was inappropriate. He will not contest the building lease termination. And he will stay away from my businesses permanently. That's very generous, my father said slowly. It's fair. Which is more than I ever received from this family. Final consequences. Marcus signed the settlement agreement 3 days later. His public statement, drafted by my legal team, acknowledged historical family dynamics that were harmful and inappropriate. It was vague enough to protect him from complete professional ruin, but specific enough that anyone who knew the situation understood what it meant. His firm dissolved. His partners took their shares and scattered to other opportunities. His professional reputation, while damaged, would eventually recover. He was talented enough for that, I knew. Just not talented enough to succeed without the foundation of honesty I'd never given him reason to doubt. My parents kept their retirement funds. They would not lose their house. They would not face financial ruin in their 70s. But things between us would never be the same. The last time I saw Marcus was 2 months after the settlement. He came to Lumiere. Properly this time, called ahead, asked for an appointment, waited until I had availability. Not demanding. Not entitled. Just asking. I agreed to meet him in the private dining room. He looked different. Thinner. Older. The cocky confidence that had defined him since childhood was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite identify. Humility maybe. Or just exhaustion. "Thank you for seeing me," he said as he sat down. "You asked nicely. Morgan, He stopped. Started again. "I've been thinking. About everything. About how I treated you. How we all treated you. And I was wrong. Not just about the money or the success, though obviously I was wrong about that too. I was wrong about who you are. Who you've always been. I waited. When we were kids I thought the attention I got meant I was special. That I deserved it. That you getting less attention meant you deserved less." He shook his head. "That's not how it works, is it?" "No. It isn't. I spent 30 years thinking I was the successful one. The golden child. And the whole time you were building something real. Something lasting. Something I could never have imagined. I had good motivation." He winced. "I know. I gave you plenty of it." We sat in silence for a moment. Chef Thomas's team worked quietly in the kitchen beyond the wall. The restaurant wouldn't open for another 2 hours. For now it was just us. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Marcus said finally. "I know I don't deserve that. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm sorry." I considered my response carefully. "Marcus, I spent a long time being angry at you. The mom and dad. At the whole family dynamic that made me feel worthless. That anger drove me for years. It pushed me to succeed. So I helped you in a way?" "No." The word was gentle but firm. "You hurt me. You all did. The success I built isn't because of you. It's despite you. I want to be clear about that." He nodded slowly. "But I don't want to carry that anger anymore. It's heavy. And I've accomplished everything I set out to accomplish. I don't need it." "So where does that leave us?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "We're not going to be close. That ship sailed years ago. The relationship you destroyed, the trust you broke. Those things don't come back. Not fully. I understand. But we can be civil. We can be at family events without drama. We can acknowledge each other as siblings without pretending we're something we're not. That's more than I expected. It's more than you deserve." I said it without malice. Just truth. But I'm choosing it anyway. For myself. Not for you. He stood up, seemed about to extend his hand, then thought better of it. "Thank you, Morgan. For the settlement. For hearing me out. For all of it." "You're welcome." He walked to the door, then paused. "The restaurant really is exceptional, by the way. The carbonara especially. I'll tell Chef Thomas." He left. I sat alone in the private dining room for a long time after that. Thinking about the journey that had brought me here. The 8-year-old with the trophy no one acknowledged. The 14-year-old who heard herself called ordinary. The young woman who built an empire from nothing but determination and spite. No. The 34-year-old who owned 12 buildings, employed 400 people, and had just closed the most satisfying chapter of her life. My phone buzzed. "Daniel. Singapore is back on the table for the Chicago property. They're offering $18 million. Want to discuss?" I smiled. "On my way. Dinner at Lumiere after to celebrate." "Your usual table?" "Always." I stood up, straightened my dress, and walked out into my restaurant. My building. My life. The past was the past. The family that raised me would never fully understand me, and I'd stopped needing them to. But the future? That belonged to me. And it was worth exactly $347 million and counting.